Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, a critical vote in the slim 50-50 split Senate, says he's not totally sold on certain parts of the bill and doesn't want to approve it along party lines. Joining us now to discuss, Republican Congressman from Texas, Brian Babin. Congressman, tell me how negotiations work in that case. I mean, it seemed like Biden and company were kind of counting on that vote, and Joe Manchin is saying, hold on a second, I come from a conservative state. I may be a Democrat, but West Virginia, we have a lot of people that try to keep an eye on what we're spending. So how does that unfold? Does that put him in a really powerful place?
It certainly does. You know, moderate Democrats are getting to be as rare as hen's teeth anymore. The radical wing of that party wags the tail, wags the dog. So they're going to need him. I'll be very, very surprised if any Republicans vote for this. And quite frankly, there's no need for voting for something like that, because we know, as some of your earlier guests on your program have said, there's over $1 trillion with a T that is still remaining unspent from previous COVID packages. And there's a good bet that when they pass this and try to get their shell budget for budget reconciliation to be able to ram these things through the Senate without having to pass the 60-vote filibuster rule, there's a great chance that they're going to have extraneous matters and materials in there that are going to be considered, which would violate what they call the Byrd Rule in the United States Senate. And there will be points of order that will be raised, and they may not be successful in getting this thing through.
And that may not match what comes out of what's out of the House, right?
Exactly.
So they would have to deal with that. What are the biggest problems you have with the bill?
Oh, it's just so much. You know, it's a dream list of Democrat far left, provisions in there, and some of them are you've already heard some of your previous guests. I mean, a $15 an hour minimum wage, essentially doubling, the minimum wage now, which is going to put up to 1.3 to 3.7 million people out of work. Ultimately, and it's going to, these hard-hit restaurants and small businesses that have a very thin, razor-thin profit margins, and then all of a sudden they're going to have to double their payroll. It's just going to be a killer for these people, and especially during the time of COVID, when we've got an economic downturn. We're just barely hanging on right now. To have these kinds of things through, and we're going to have a $400 bonus unemployment, $1,400 stimulus checks, $50 billion coronavirus testing, which, we've already got this sitting there. $20 billion more for national vaccine program. I think someone mentioned a while ago that, we have private industry that can enterprise that can do these types of things. Why do this? Another 100,000 healthcare worker funding, $10 billion for domestic PPE purchases. It's on and on and on. $170 billion for K through 12, and bailouts for state. And this is one of the most egregious parts of it, Bob. Bailing out blue states that are mismanaged. Why should the American taxpayer be left with that tab?
Let me ask you this. Tell me about the workings within the House. Do you have Democrat friends in the House? Do they ever come to you and talk about the bills, about the legislation? Do you bandy it around? Or is that conversation all going at the higher echelon as far as the leadership and the parties talk to each other? Or do you ever have conversations with members of the other party?
Bob, historically, we've had numerous conversations with Democrats. Quite frankly, in the last months, it has been very, very seldom that we say anything but pleasantries. And but because they talk unity, and yet you've seen these executive orders by this president putting literally hundreds of thousands of people out of work, especially in my district. I'm the epicenter of energy in the United States. I've got more petrochemical refining facilities, 4 ports, and to kill a project like the Keystone Pipeline and other things are just going to be a killer for us.
Let me ask you about that, Congressman. About I think that the amount of federal land in Texas is fairly small compared to New Mexico. Is it possible that Texas gets some of the business that is going to be lost in New Mexico because on federal lands they can't develop oil and gas according to the new executive orders from President Biden?
That's a great question. I was with a New Mexico Republican member yesterday in Houston, in my district, at the Port of Houston, talking about the discontinuation of the Keystone Pipeline. And of course, we don't have that much federal lands.
Right.
That it would not hurt us near as bad. But let me tell you, a project like Keystone and many of the other, I met with 10 different pipeline companies yesterday and their representatives, and you know, the pipelines don't just stay in Texas; they go outside the state. Keystone was going all the way to Canada, and this is going to put tens of thousands of people out of work. It's going to hurt Texas as well.
Yeah.
It's going to trickle down and hurt the refiners. It's going to hurt our environment. They keep talking about this as an environmental matter. The Keystone was,
right,
and yet the safest way to ship product like this is under the ground in pipelines, and yet we're going to be put more at the mercy of Russia, Iran, and other foreign producers, and then have to ship it all the way around the world, which would be a lot more liable to have pollutions and emissions and burn more fossil fuels, getting them here by truck, marine transportation, et cetera.
Okay.
So it doesn't make a bit of sense, not a bit of sense, Bob.
All right. Congressman Babin, thank you so much for joining us and sharing some of your thoughts. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.